So I was trying to say, welcome and thanks for being here. What's the situation that you're living? Just I'll let you just go through and tell me, what the situation is and your personal perspective.
Yeah, thank you for having me. First of all, right now I'm in Ivano-Frankivsk region. It's west of Ukraine, but a bit south from Lviv, a few hours from Lviv, close to the mountains. It's a relatively safe area since Western Ukraine right now is like a rear front line and a hub to take rest, and many people take shelter here. So we have a lot of IDPs, but still, like you can hear war, the sounds of war, and the sounds that remind you of war everywhere. Like even in the mountains, we still hear sirens, and we get notifications about warnings to go to the shelter. So like it's like a message all around Ukraine that you don't feel safe anywhere, and you should always remember that there's war, like that Russia is trying to invade Ukraine. So it's a very stressful situation and psychologically difficult wherever you are in Ukraine. Doesn't matter if you're in a safe condition, like if you see shellings or no, you still know that war is happening. Um, in the rest of Ukraine, of course, like the situation in some areas is disastrous. I constantly meet people from Kharkiv, from Mariupol, from other cities in Ukraine who are sharing just like terrifying stories about how they fled and the conditions of life in their cities under blockade right now. Mariupol is in a worse situation probably because it's a big city, and we know that hundreds of thousands of people are trapped there.
Yeah, let me ask
And
you about
recent
Mariupol. And we understand it's a complete disaster, and the Russian army is clearly heading toward a project of total destruction. Do you have any idea of what people there are doing, if they're able to escape? My understanding is that they're not really able to escape towards safe areas, and the only areas they can move toward are Russian control area. How what is this? I mean, what's going on
Yeah,
from that point of view?
well, they don't only like Russia did this operation of full forced deportation, which they practiced before in the Donbass. They are trying to move Ukrainians to Russia forcibly by force, and they did it in Mariupol as well. As I've seen, they forcibly displaced around more than 2,000 children already, and also adults. They made people get on the buses and they would take them to Russia, which is illegal, which is against Geneva Convention and any international law. But there is like any person in Mariupol is making a choice right now whether to stay in Mariupol and wait until you survive or not, or maybe will be hit by from the sky and die, or to take a risk and evacuate on your own. So many people just go by foot. Like there are a lot of examples when people are trying to flee the city by foot, just taking some essential stuff with them, documents, and they head towards Zaporizhia. It's like 3 hours drive normally, but it takes them days to get there. And many are going by cars. Since the situation is
So they're
terrible there
able
for
to move by car.
well, it's on their luck as well. If they're lucky, they can escape. If they're not lucky, they can be met they can be encountered with a Russian tank and shot dead. And we have numerous examples like this, like of these war crimes, when people are shot at while evacuating from Mariupol. And the cars that are leaving are telling about the situation in Mariupol, because since everything is destroyed and the city is under constant bombardment, many cars are damaged. So people are just trying to find some wheels, to find some things to cover the windows because everything is damaged and destroyed. But that's their last chance to escape. So we see just horrible examples how people are fleeing the city. It's like the past century, actually.
Marco Bellandi Giuffrida has joined us. Good morning, Marco.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you.
I should say my personal thanks, and let me also say you're welcome here. We have been carrying out live reporting on the Ukrainian situation since the first morning in which Putin's army attacked your country, and we think it's our duty. There's not much more than this, and sending some money and providing moral support that we can do. We truly appreciate what you're doing, and we want to try to provide our support. Okay, that's I'll let Marco go ahead.
Thank you a lot.
And I'll be here listening. Thanks, Iryna.
All right, thank you very much, Iryna, for your time and for being here. Now, I do have a question, actually, because now it's true that in this conversation we are probably going to talk about how information and how media around the world are covering the war in Ukraine. That's a topic that we're going to discuss later, I think. But I would like to start with the terrible news that's coming from Kiev in the last few hours. Like, for example, this morning during the press review, we read the accusation of the Ukrainian foreign minister, who said that the Russian army allegedly illegally deported more than 2,000 children who were in the occupied regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, and that they were deported to the territory of the Russian Federation. Now, I'd like to ask you to help us understand what is really happening here. Some people have been comparing this to the deportation of the Crimean Tatars, which happened in 1944, and that would be really shocking. So, what is really happening here? I think we have a problem.
Sorry, I didn't hear the first. Yes, I didn't hear the first part of your question. I only heard about Crimean Tatars.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I'll try to repeat. I hope that I hope that people in the chat can hear me, because I can't see them. Now, we do have some problems, but we're trying to okay. Well, I'll try. Now, I said that I would like to start with terrible news that's coming from Kiev in the last few hours. And yesterday, the Ukrainian foreign minister has basically said that the Russian army has been deporting more than 2,000 children who were in the occupied regions of the Donetsk and of the Luhansk, and they were deported to the territory of the Russian Federation. So I would like to ask you, what is really happening here? Like, is this something that we can compare to like I said before, the deportation of the Crimean Tatars? That was a comparison that some people making in this time. Can you help us understand what is really happening here?
Yes. Well, the whole situation, since we see war crimes all the time, and we see how Russia is targeting peaceful civilians and children, and hospitals, maternity hospitals. It's clear to Ukrainians that this is a genocide. This is not just war, and this is a policy that Russia has been conducting since ages ago. Ukrainians have centuries of experience of Russian oppression and Russian forced deportations, mass murders, genocide in the form of Holodomor, artificial famine created by Stalin. So it's not anything new. We are not surprised. I mean, we are shocked, of course, but the history repeats itself. And for many Ukrainians, the traumas and tragedies of the past centuries, they are still a living memory. It's not something from the history books. We still have survivors of Soviet oppression who were sent to gulags, whose relatives were killed, who suffered from Russian Soviet oppressive machine, and of course Crimean Tatars who have relatives who were deported to Russia in 1944. So of course all this resonates, and it's just terrifying how history can repeat itself, especially like now when we kind of live in this developed era, when we think that technologies help and we have democracies around, but in fact we're alone in this tragedy. Of course, we understand, we see the support of the world, and we appreciate all the humanitarian aid, all the support and solidarity from different countries, but all this does not prevent the genocide that is happening, and we've already lost around 15,000 people just in these days. So yes, it's tragic, and Ukrainians see that the history repeats itself.
Well, that's terrible, and of course, it's very difficult, like to to stay calm when we hear these kind of things. And in all this, however, it is also true that the Russian military has not made any major progress in the recent weeks. I'm talking about, for example, Kiev is resisting, Kharkiv doesn't fall, and Mariupol as well is resisting. So it seems that the Russian military, apart from bombarding civilians, is actually facing great difficulties. So what should we expect in the coming days from the Putin's army? And is there any how do you read the situation from this point of view, from the military point of view?
Well, I'm not a military expert, but I read different scenarios, and also analysts who are military experts have very different points of views. Some of them say that everything will protract, like this will be a protracted war till maybe June, like at least by the summer. And some of them say, like our advisor to the head of the office of the president, who's very popular right now in calming Ukrainians down, he says that it will last 2-3 weeks, since Russian resources are very limited, and they are already out of food, and they are looting houses because they don't have anything to eat. Their morale is very low. So it's hard to say if they really are losing stock and resources, and many of them are trying to flee to run away from the conflict, because they don't want to participate in all that. They see that there's no purpose why they came here. They're just killing civilians. I don't. It's hard to predict, but I really want to believe that they're out of human resource, and they will maybe retreat. But it's also like an idea, probably, judging from the history. The main problem in all this is the sky. That's why all Ukrainians are always emphasizing that NATO countries should impose a no-fly zone. Many realize that it's impossible because Western European countries and Western countries in general don't want to get engaged in the conflict, like in the war. So the main problem for Ukrainians is the bombardments, because if that was not the case, Ukrainian army, with all the potential that we see on the ground, would be able to push them out. And I think this is an unprecedented case when Ukrainian army showed that it's more efficient and more, how do you say, more professional on the ground than Russian army is, even though Russian army is supposed be one of the strongest armies in the world. So yeah, the main problem is the sky. We hope for better. Like, many Ukrainians are staying optimistic, and they believe in victory. As I've posted recently, the latest poll says that more than 90% of Ukrainians believe that Ukraine will be able to win this war. And I think that's the main mood, even though it's very hard to stay in this reality and to live under these conditions, because it's constant emotional swings. Like, you feel that your country is close to victory, and then you see horrifying pictures of civilians being killed. So it's very difficult.
Hello, Monique. Yeah, I understand, Iryna, you know Monique. Monique has joined us. Ciao,
We
Monique.
know each other. We know each other through Twitter.
Right.
Hello, Iryna. Good morning, and,
Hello,
and
Monica.
I'm really happy to
Nice
meet
to
you.
meet you.
I am so happy to meet you.
Good morning.
Good
Lasciami
morning.
fare una breve cosa, poi vi lascio la parola. Un invito a chi ci segue: cercate di spammare, mettere like e far venire le persone. Siamo in 1000, dovremmo essere 100.000. Quindi per favore datevi da fare, fate girare. Prego, Monique.
Iryna, I was looking at your one thing that I think is really, really important for anyone who is listening to us is understanding that words matter. You have a very important pinned tweet, okay, on your feed.
Yeah.
And this is something that, along with, let's say, my podcast, but also a lot of other people who in the West, right, where we are trying to educate people to understand how to talk, okay, about Ukraine. And I think this is important because it also goes back to how Western people see Ukraine from, let's say, the war in Donbass, okay, and the annexation of Crimea. And a lot of people don't know that. So I wanted to sort of talk to you about that first. Then I wanted to talk to
Don't
you
hear
also
anyone
about
right now.
Okay. So we'll wait a minute.
Oh, now I can hear you.
Now better? Okay, great. Yeah, because it's probably coming in and out, right? It's probably coming in and out. Okay. I was saying that
But I heard that you said about
perfect. So how we talk about Ukraine, okay, a lot of people don't understand that the war, all right, in, let's say, the annexation of Crimea and also Donbass, okay, the war in is not, these are not separatists, because there's a lot of people who have misunderstandings about this, or they're ignorant, okay, as well, because also we don't do a good job, all right, in many places in the West to explain things properly, okay, and Italy is a case in point, all right. Could you explain a little bit about that, and why you put it on your Twitter feed, and also the some of the main messages that it's important for people to understand?
Yes. Well, for everyone. Yes, for everyone who hasn't seen my pinned tweet, it's a video that I made for Ukraine World before the invasion. For 3 years, I've been working for an online media project, Ukraine World. We were writing and making videos in English about Ukraine. So I made this video before the invasion, when Ukrainian topic was all over the media, and it was difficult to see how a foreign media distort the reality by using inappropriate words, by saying that, even before the invasion, by saying that that was Ukraine crisis, that those are Russian rebels in Donbass. What else? Like about separatists. These words are very common there, and in this video I tried to show some examples of some of the numerous examples that I found and saw in foreign press. And I tried to explain why this wording is wrong, and why is it important to use correct words to describe the reality in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine. The whole point of Russian propaganda is to say that Ukraine is occupied by Nazis and Russia is a liberator, and that the war in Donbass was started by Ukrainians. They say that Kyiv attacked Donbass, and they keep saying that it's Ukrainians who were killing people in Donbass. The whole narrative is about civil war in Ukraine, and they're using this wording. They are saying that those were separatists in Donbass who proclaimed independence there, like self-proclaimed republics.
Yeah.
That it's crisis in Ukraine. It's their wording as well. All this kind of annihilates Russian agency in this war. It says that Russia is not a party in this conflict, but Ukraine. It's all on Ukraine's. It's all Ukraine's fault. So I was trying to debunk these narratives and to counter them with real facts that Crimea was occupied in 2014, that Donbass, all this turmoil in Donbass started from Russian invasion, and all these separatists in brackets, they were backed by Russian forces, and they were financed by Russian Federal Security Service, and all the operation would not happen if there were not Guerra, this
That's right.
Russian intelligence service on the ground. We had numerous evidence about how they put Russian flag on administrations in Donbass, and these people could be easily identified through their social media. So it's not even a secret information. Everyone can have access to this information.
Yeah.
But these narratives are very common in Europe and Western world because Russian propaganda is very intoxicating. Here it's robust, and in Russia it's very robust. But in Western countries it's more subtle. So it's hard to say, like, for people out of context, that something is a pro-Kremlin narrative when you are not in this context. So it's more subtle and it's easier to believe, and that's why many media just absorb this terminology, absorb some of the narratives, and create this kind of not like distorted reality, but a bit like twisted reality that harms Ukraine because it deletes Russian agency in this war.
In fact, they use just Marco, just to give a little comment on what Iryna is saying to follow up. It's a technique that is very, very subtle and is used across, let's say here, because we're here in Italy, across Italian media, whereby they give a quote and no context. Okay, so they just leave it there. Okay, without any pushback, without any explanation. Or they keep hammering on about certain narratives that we are very, very familiar with, especially here at LiberiOltre, because they do a fantastic job. They always try to do a fantastic job of showing what is actually happening. There. In fact, even this, what happened in Crimea and also in Donbass was also starting to happen here again with, I think it was it Kharkiv or Kherson, where they tried to put, or Melitopol, they tried to put, let's say, a false government. They tried to implant, and this is to take away all of the, what is the purpose of doing?
It's a question to me, right?
Yes. Yes.
Well, like putting their false governments there, it's just the tactics to show that they have power over the territory, that they officially took it. But I think it would be maybe possible, as they did in Donbass back in 2014. But right now the situation is very different, and all Ukrainians are super united and consolidated against Russian aggression right now, and especially in those southern and southeastern regions that used to be like very pro-Russian long before this war. They are now very pro-Ukrainian, even though they are predominantly Russian-speaking. So what Russia is doing, they were counting that Russian-speaking population in Ukraine would accept them with bread and salt and greet them, and they will easily put their flags on administrations and proclaim some kind of independence from Ukraine or autonomy from Ukraine. But that doesn't happen because people are opposing, and Russian speakers who Russian propaganda portrays as anti-Ukrainian are in fact anti-Russian. And this is actually the reason why Russia is bombarding Mariupol so hard, and why it causes all these atrocities and war crimes against Russian speakers in Ukraine. This is like a surreal situation, because in their propaganda they say that they come to Ukraine to liberate Ukrainians from Nazis and to liberate Russian speakers. Throughout all these years, they were reiterating that Russian speakers are under threat in Ukraine, but we don't have a language problem. For us, like, we are raised in this bilingual environment, and many people speak both languages. Some of them don't speak Russian, some of them don't speak Ukrainian, but we do understand both languages. And for us, it's not a matter of any aggression conflict in the country. But Russia turned it into a total humanitarian disaster just because these Russian speakers didn't accept Russian invasion. That's why Mariupol is bombed so hard, because this is a predominantly Russian-speaking population, and Mariupol was liberated in 2014. And to my opinion, and from what I read from other people as well, Putin takes a revenge on these territories and on these people. And putting a flag over administration is just an official proclamation and like useful picture for their propaganda to show that they have control over the territory. That's why Ukrainians are opposing so hard. They are not allowing this, and they are trying to protest daily in those areas where Russian forces took the cities. They are not allowing to do this because they know that it will be used for propaganda, and like it creates some kind of precedent for other Ukrainian cities as well.
Yeah, I would like to continue talking about narratives and propaganda. One very sad thing that we have verified in this day, we hold a press review like every morning here, and we see that like the newspaper all over the world, even the one that are notoriously more right wing, still had the courage to call Putin's invasion an invasion, and what is happening in Ukraine as a war. Well, that didn't happen in Italy, where many newspapers actually are still defending Putin's side and Putin's army. For example, today, the Ukrainian President Zelensky will speak to the Italian parliament, and some members of the Italian parliament have said that they will be absent as a form of dissent with what Zelensky is doing. And that's very sad. But for example, you have like a few days ago, you have published a tweet where you have strongly criticized, and here's, I think you can all see it, yep, where you have strongly criticized the Italian television, saying that very often they support Russian propaganda. So can you tell us briefly what happened and why you felt like writing this statement?
Yes, well, I wouldn't criticize all Ukrainian Italian television, because that was my first appearance on the Italian television. Actually, I don't speak Italian. That's why Italian media don't reach out to me. But this was the case when I agreed to talk on the show, and I I know the problem in Italy with pro-Kremlin propaganda. So I contacted my friends who are Italians. I studied human rights in Italy, actually. I studied in Venice. So I have...
Venice, my town. Where did you
Yes,
study?
I
Well,
studied in the European University Center.
Okay.
oh, I see.
Yes, it's like a program from the European Commission, but it's
Mhm.
based
The
in Venice.
island of San Servolo.
Yes, on Lido.
I hope you had at least good memories of that.
Yes, so I have Italian friends, so I contacted them and asked whether
Now you have a few
this...
more.
Sorry?
Now you have a few more, hundreds of more.
So I asked them what they think about this television. It's Lie 7, something like that. And they said it was fine. They said that sometimes they invite weird guests, but in general, their TV shows are not that bad. So I agreed. And yes, the speaker there was quite, I don't know. I first thought that she just didn't know what the situation on the ground was, that she didn't understand what was happening, because she talked about self-determination of people in Crimea and Donbass, which is absolute nonsense
Yeah.
in this context. So, and I didn't understand. I had a translator, so I only could understand the context of their talk from the translation. And they were discussing like whether we should deliver whether Italy should deliver weapons to Ukraine or not. And she was opposing it very strongly because she was on a peacemaker and pacifist. So I tried to explain that in this situation where we would all be pacifists before this invasion. Right now, when people are bombarded, it's impossible to be pacifist. Like
Yeah.
even people who had no affiliation or no connection to military or any kind of defense things, they are now taking weapons because that's the only way to protect their lives. And it was very sad for me to hear this, but of course I tried to somehow debunk these toxic narratives and explain that it's impossible to talk about peace under bombardment, when children are killed, when your house is looted. It's strange to talk about this kind of stuff, being in a peaceful country and knowing that you're far away. Maybe it's comforting, but it's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, we totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, I watched the recording of it afterwards because of someone. I usually don't watch that program, and someone sent to me, Monique, have you seen this? No, with Iryna, and I said, oh, let me go and check. So I started watching. You did a wonderful job of pushing back. I also put out a tweet because I found that even the host did not say anything, okay, especially on the crap about peace at all costs and all that kind of thing. But not because I'm a warmonger. This is the problem, is that they end up calling people who try to, especially in the West, people who are trying to show, I don't even know how you can call it, the whole pro-Kremlin line that they're taking. And right now they're putting a lot of pressure on the peace activist groups, a lot of pressure there. Probably it's happening all over Europe, but they're putting out this narrative, and I'm sure Michele and Marco know all about it as well, of, peace at all costs. And they're putting pressure on the old certain parts of political parts of the political spectrum. Let's just put it that way.
I understood they wanted to maybe create some kind of balance, but it's strange.
No, it's a false balance. No, they do that all the time. They do the both sidism thing, right? So they bring on two sides, but in this context, there are no two sides, to tell you the truth. There is explaining what is happening, as you are doing on the ground, and we thank you for that. and explaining exactly all of the things that are happening. That's all there is.
Yeah,
But that's what they do. It's a false both sidism.
yeah, I agree. Well, I also had a feeling that the host either didn't understand the situation or didn't want to intervene. Because of her reaction, I understood that she kind of takes like a neutral side, but it's strange in this situation too.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say that some, should I say, mostly women. It's quite remarkable.
Yeah.
I have to say, mostly women have the courage of coming through and say, let me show, I don't know who Natalie Tocci is. Now I know a bit
I know
about
her.
professional life. She came out quite clearly today on La Stampa, and I think, let me just share it for a moment with me yesterday, actually,
Like if you want,
with an article in which she just says, what we're all doing is being victim of a disinformation program. Well, sorry, I can't make it large enough. It's just a testimony. Yeah, no, it doesn't work. Okay, forget it. But anyhow, that's
like I'll try to do it.
Yeah, this is Natalie's article.
I'll try to do it because I have an iPad. So I just if you okay, I'm gonna find it.
There you go.
Yeah, Natalie Tocci, Iryna, she works in Rome, okay, and she's the work that she does there is actually quite remarkable with her team. Anytime on Italian TV that I've seen people that work with her and they've explained, what is going on, they're very good. And I've seen them very few times, though. That's the problem, is that they don't invite people who actually know what they're talking about. Italian TV many times is more like a circus, where they are arguing, from the morning to the evening. So it's not really to inform; it's just to keep viewers watching. And I you know what? When I saw the puntata, when I saw what was happening, my heart went out to you, because I said, "Oh my God, they're doing it again." So we hope. And what was the article? Sorry, I interrupted. I do that quite often. Sorry.
No, don't worry. You didn't interrupt. That's fine. You're describing, and the article is there if people wants to. I will look out for Natalie, and we're trying to provide support to people that report facts. And the Italian press, the Italian media system, to a large percentage, I would say 80%, 70% is unfortunately utterly biased for a variety of reasons. There is fascism in it, there is communism in it, there is a misunderstood form of religious Catholicism that says, let's just not do anything. They forgot about Christ kicking out the bad guys from the temple. And it's an overall, it's a complicated thing. This is not the opportunity, this is not the moment to debate it. What we have to do, and what I think we should keep doing, is just denounce it and say, you're lying. You're just lying. You're lying outright. And you want to sue me, you're lying. You want to prove me I'm wrong, come debate with me. Come debate with Iryna, with Monique, with Marco, with people that are willing to show that you're actually lying. It's as simple as that. And that's the way it is. And it's, I'm very embarrassed as an Italian around the world to have to put up with that. But
we all are.
Listen, Iryna, let me ask you. I understand you being very optimistic. Let me ask you a difficult question, a question one should ask a politician and not a journalist. But just tell me what your general thought is. Assume that there is a way through Chinese, Turkish, European pressure and the obvious difficulties that the dictator is facing in his own country and in the war he started, to get something close to a real bargaining, to a real diplomatic discussion, not the charade is put up so far. What do you think is the settlement that the current Ukrainian government and population would accept. I understand the temptation of saying, we want Ukraine free and back. We want you out of our country. We want you to go home and pay for the disaster you made. I do understand it fully. But on more,
your question,
cynical, realistic ground, what do you think would be doable?
Now I don't hear you well, but I heard your question.
All right, we can hear you.
Go ahead.
Your question was about bargaining and what Ukrainians would agree on, right?
Yep.
What terms Ukrainians would agree on? Well, to understand Ukraine, one should look into history, and for us, it's quite an obvious thing that right now we are deciding our destiny, like for the next century at least, or maybe like future in general. Like Ukrainians well realize that we can lose our statehood forever right now if we don't fight till the end. For many, it means that they are ready to lay their life for the country, because they realize that we can lose our sovereignty and we can succumb to Russia and suffer from genocide, and Ukrainian nation will cease to exist. Because genocide is already happening, not on the full scale around the country, but we can see what it would lead to. And all the years of oppression before clearly showed a Russian attitude towards Ukrainian people. Russia does not recognize Ukraine as a country. They do not see Ukrainians as a separate nation. For centuries, they were trying to erase Ukraine from earth and to assimilate Russians in Ukraine. That's why we have Russian-speaking Ukrainians here. So it's a matter of survival, and Ukrainians will not accept any terms that would give away their territories. It's a disputable issue on Donbass and Crimea. Maybe partly some Ukrainians would agree on that, just like for a matter of peace, just because we can't, maybe we don't have enough resources to take away Crimea and fight against these occupied territories of Donbass, fight for them. But the rest of the territory, I don't think any Ukrainian would agree on giving away Kharkiv, Mariupol, Kherson. It would mean that we agreed to further suffer.
Okay, I think that we have lost.
Do you hear me right now?
Yeah. Now, yep. Now we hear you.
So,
I think that we have a.
It's okay. We have an interruption, but it's okay. She will come back. It's okay. It's okay. I think she said it quite clearly. I think her answer is quite right. There are parts of the country we cannot renounce to. Other we would like to have back, but we might be able to accept giving up on something, but not the dismember, not the destruction of the Ukrainian identity. And I think that's
statehood.
That's the key point.
But
the identity of a country that has decided to be independent and have a life that they can choose to be what it is.
It's not just about like statehood. It's also about a matter of survival. Ukrainians well understand that if Russians come to Ukraine and occupy our land, Ukrainians will be killed, tortured, raped, all the possible totalitarian methods to erase the nations. And Ukraine has already gone through that several times. So it's nothing new. And since the occupation of Donbass and Crimea, as I've said, they were trying to tell it to the world. Like, I was working for Ukraine World, trying to communicate Ukraine, and I was writing about Donbass and Crimean Tatars and explaining why the situation is dangerous, like why Russia is a threat to democracy. It was a threat to Ukraine still, because we well realize they will not stop at one like region or one city. They will move further, and Russian propaganda is openly talking about not only dividing Ukraine, not only about the whole occupation of Ukraine, but also about maybe a possible invasion to Poland, maybe an invasion in the Baltics. They talk about it openly. For them, it's just like it's an imperial thinking. It's an imperial expansionist mentality. Maybe it's hard to understand for some democratic countries, but that's how they think, and they are raised in this thinking that Russia is a powerful country that can control the world. Like, they have this expression which is called Great Russia. They constantly use it, and it means that Russia is superior over our other countries. And this mentality is deeply rooted in Russian society. It's like even young people who are more or less liberal or maybe apolitical, they still have this thinking. It's terrible, and it's a threat to the world.
Yeah, I have to admit, I have quite a large number of Russian, Belarusian friends and acquaintances, even former students. And I am sorry to say, and I said it from the very beginning a month ago and in other occasions before, that, I mean, I say unfortunately because I wish it were not true. But the thing you just said, it's nothing to do with genetics or other stupid things people say. It has to do with very deeply rooted culture of domination and supremacy and true.
Also, because Michele, this generation that we're seeing at the helm, let's say all of the Putin himself and the Sloviki and everyone else that surrounds him, this is a generation that came out of the Soviet Union, and they have held on to power along with a lot of the other, the clans and different things. So it's a mentality, as you're saying, very deep rooted. And Iryna, you're absolutely right. I agree. And another thing too that a lot of people in the West don't pick up, Iryna, is that Russian propaganda, especially on television, where I think it's over 70% of people get their information from the major Russian channels, Rossiya One and the whole business. They signal exactly what they're going to do beforehand. So it's, they've been talking, as you said, they've been talking openly about, no, we're going to take over this land and deportations. I saw a tweet of the deportation. Do you have information on the deportation of children? Because I saw one of your tweets about that. I wanted to ask you about that.
I didn't have much time to dig on it, but I saw a statement from the Mariupol City Council. That's the information from them, that children were forcibly evacuated and they couldn't prevent it because the areas are heavily shelled, as we know, and it's difficult to help people in this situation. And not only children, adults were forcibly displaced as well as in Donbass. When the invasion was just like about to happen, they did that in Donbass. They were evacuating people to Russia. And we've seen videos of people being angry and they didn't understand why they took them to Russia. They didn't have any accommodation. They were just taken out of their country and put in the middle of nowhere. So this is terrible, but we know why it's happening. They need to assimilate and do something to erase Ukrainian culture, erase Ukrainian identity from those areas, even though the city is completely destroyed. I don't know. hard to rationally judge why they're doing this, but that's kind of imperial methods that they've been using before with Crimean
like a
Tatars.
colonization.
Thousands of
Yeah.
Crimean Tatars deported and sent to Russia, just like to be killed and to die there, to erase the identity of Crimean Tatars in Crimea.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I need to
Yep.
go right now.
All right.
Thank
you.
Very nice to talk to you, and I hope to see you again.
Thank you, Iryna.
Talk to you again.
And
Thanks,
yeah,
Iryna.
let me
You have an
Thank
open
you. Thank you very much.
invitation. I'll DM you.
You have my WhatsApp number, Telegram as well.
Okay,
whenever you
thank
want
you.
to come, if you have colleagues and friends that want to report, we're here.
I also
Thank you
want
very much.
to ask all the Italians who support Ukraine right now. I got a lot of messages following this interview on Italian TV, and also my tweets, a lot of messages of support. So I see how Italy supports Ukrainians, even despite all this problem with Russian narratives. And we are really grateful and appreciate it. Grazie.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. And
Thank you.
I would say it's Slava Ukraini. I like it.
Exactly.
Героям
Slava
слава.
Ukraini.
Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава.
See you.
See you.
See you soon.